Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call a committee meeting tonight. We have a combination finance and construction committee meeting tonight. And before we begin, Mr. Brewer, would you give us a prayer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come at this time, dear Lord, and we just ask that you be with us as we go through this policy, procedures, and these accounts, dear Lord, that we make right decisions that affect the 24,000 students and our staff in a way that would put you first in our lives. And we just ask that you be with us, that give us the understanding, the knowledge, and the ability, dear Lord, to make those right decisions. Again, we just thank you for your Son that died on the cross, that we all could have eternal life. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
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 Amen. Folks, tonight, and we'll be doing this next Tuesday also, if someone on the committees make a motion and a second, we need to make sure we know who that is. Mr. Lawson and Mr. Smith will probably be calling their name out so it can be recorded, and we do know who that is because of these masks and everything. It sometimes makes that a little bit difficult. So I think these fellows might be going to do this together. So finance, Mr. Smith is chairman, and construction, Mr. Lawson is chairman. So gentlemen, we'll turn it over.
Well, Randy's gonna start it off. Yes, construction part, he will.
I asked Mr. Mike, because the finance is gonna be needed on the back end, that if we just do the construction first and decide where we can find the monies, and if Miss Erica can help us with any, giving us any information. I guess we'll start with the modular units at Townsend, and that information is gonna be in your packet. Mr. Arnie, can you come help me just a little bit? Bring your stuff up and come to the podium. We got questions from as far as LL and J, the cost of the modular units and the plumbing, electrical, and what can be done as far as us contributing to it. Our maintenance.
Okay, I'm assuming my paper is in order with yours, so.
Right. On the,
I had Mr. Locklear with LL&J Robbie break it down so you could kind of see each scope of work is items 1 through 8 actually, and the 8th item is your contingency. Contingency doesn't necessarily mean you'll spend that, but it's always there is for the unforeseen. Everything else is basically as shown. The first one is given in the existing some at Tanglewood, Green Grove, and Rolling Middle. Those are where they would come from. You would have to purchase. Get into procurement and construction oversight, and all of which means that all the codes and local city ordinances would be followed, go through LL&J. And of course, one of the things I know a lot of people look at moves, and what they're used to is hooking up to a trailer, but these are actually houses. So it's like moving a house. And once you do that, the code requires a footing, and all that has to be set up. So that's another reason you're looking at those costs there with your underpinning and so forth. Your electrical to the mobiles is broken out. Then you see your plumbing, where we have one with bathrooms, and then of course your decks, your ramps, steps, and canopies. And you've got, if you're going to go with concrete sidewalk, that would be about your cost there. And if you think about trying to do it with wood, you're still better off with concrete because we've still got a continuous upkeep. So concrete's a one-time expense. Now, I think on the second proposal, you'll see some handwritten notes there. wanted us to come back and look at new, if, instead of using the ones that we have that we could use, buying them brand new. And, if you look, at the bottom paragraph on that first page, you'll notice about 49K per. You multiply that times 5, the 5 that, you were looking at, so I'll give you that number at the bottom of that.
But Mr. Ernie, in essence, the,
That would up your cost.
right,
How much?
By 245,000. You're not buying, if you look at the first sheet,
Yeah.
first sheet, you don't see any cost of mobiles because we're using existing mobiles. So what you would be, actually have to deduct out of that would be your relocation number. See that on item number 1? That's actually moving them, setting them up. So that number would actually come out of, down off of the, total, but then you'd have to go back and add the 245,000.
So the total would be how much?
I'm not adding, I'm just pointing out the numbers, so.
You take the 62,000 from the,
From the 257,950. you take that 62 out and then, but you're gonna have to add the 245 back, which is, and that also includes your tax and your setup, so. So you can back out your 62K, what you would have invested to move the 5 piston mobiles from those campuses.
I think we lost.
Ms. Erica?
Mr. Leach?
I think, lost people here. Okay, on the second sheet, I got 257,950. That's the total for moving existing units. That's correct?
yes.
I got 257,950.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct, right? All right. The total, I just want to make sure the total for the new existing 5 units, that would be 245, plus we got to add some more costs.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because we
Let's go.
lost.
Bleach. That says 62,000. If I'm looking at the right paper, let's see now, make sure I'm looking correctly. I don't see a new total for the 245. In other words, if you notice, all the next one is a repeat of the first one. Got to put this together. So what this is in sequential order and how it was started. So what you got to do is actually do what Miss Urka just did, is take that 245,000 and add it to,
95,950.
yeah, because you got to subtract the 62,000 out of it first. In other words, take your, do it this way. Take $257,000, $950 and subtract the 62 out of it. And then you add the 245 back to that, new number, and that comes up
That's what.
$40,950. So
Say that again, Ms. Erica?
$140,950.
that's if you go with the new ones.
That's the new ones.
Yes, ma'am, if you go with the new ones. So you almost, double it.
And that's having everything done if we went with the new ones.
Yeah, but you go back and you still add the electrical, all that, the hookup.
So the electrical and plumbing is not added to that cost.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it
I
is.
said everything.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's turnkey.
Okay,
Put the new ones in, that's your turnkey cost.
Okay.
Now,
So this 40,000, I'm sorry, this,
Yeah, Mr. Leach.
that's on the electrical, that'll be for all 5 of them, or that'll be for?
All 5.
Okay, I just want,
All 5.
okay, I just wanted,
And the reason we done it that way, so you could see a total picture, you can go back and break it down. Now, those are projected costs. It depends if material goes up or if material comes down, these numbers could go up or down a little bit there. And that's usually what that contingency is built in there for, to kind of give you a little buffer.
But on that, Mr. Ernie, that 257,950, that's on all 5 of them
With what we already have.
what we already have.
Yes, sir.
That would just be relocating them, rehooking plumbing, electrical, the heating and air mechanical, and that stuff up.
And if there's any upfit like painting and stuff like
Right.
that, that's where we would come in on the interior side.
Right. And that's also, pouring the foundations and stuff that we've got to
Yes,
put.
sir. That's correct.
Okay. So now it makes sense. Go ahead, Mr. Leach.
The existing buildings, the existing modular homes, do we know how long they've been there? When you talk about
Right.
modular homes, that's got age on them and stuff like that, you're gonna have problems with it. So we know how long they've been there, what kind of issue, what kind of shape they're in, because there's a lot of them, I think, when I was at Rolling Mill, there was a modular home there, so I don't think it'd be smart to move that one, so we got to look at all that case scenario when you start talking about moving modular homes and stuff.
Newest one, Mr. Leach, is at Rolling Meadow, and it's a double-double. It was a purchased unit, and it was the band room and something else they're using it for, but it's two into one. So that's the newest one of them.
And then there's one at Tanglewood, right?
Yes, sir, it's been remodeled.
Yeah.
So that passed. The older ones would come from, going back to what he's alluding to, would come from Greenbrook.
And what's the chance of us, possibility of coming up and needing units in those locations in the future?
Correct,
That's a good point to consider.
which was my next question.
Might be smart to go ahead and bite the bullet to start with.
That would be my thought.
You can set them up when you purchase them from those individuals.
How much of the stuff that y'all could do that would save the cost here?
The only problem is, you're looking at, 5 mobiles, the electrical. We could do electrical, but once we start, we're dead in the water because right now we're short electricians. That's what we're trying to find now, so I mean, we could do the electrical with no problem.
Electrical and the plumbing?
The plumbing, maybe, it just depends. We don't have a licensed plumber, so you're still at the mercy of, contractor there.
Right.
Ms. Erica, do we have enough funding for the new ones? If we were to approve that?
The thing about the funding is gonna be a loaded question. There's gonna be funding available to do any of these projects. It's the combination of how many of the projects that you want to do.
I mean, it's for the classrooms.
Yes,
mobile
there's-
units.
there would be funding available to do this project here. But we can't do every project that's on this sheet.
Right.
You have to prioritize. The list, what we talked about, we talked about short-range plans and long-range plans.
Right.
We know Townsend is a hot issue, but some others may not be, but what you gonna do in a year, what you gonna do in 5 years? I mean, you have to have a plan and chop it out like we did the air conditioning.
Ms. Sarah?
The conversation, that we probably could have before we get started looking is, I gave everybody a copy of where we stand with capital outlay is what our current approved budget is. As you can see from that, we've already included $2.5 million in appropriated fund balance. We could start looking at this budget and make decisions on things that may not need to be done this year. And we could use part of that 2.5 to refunnel into some of these projects. Then we're also balancing, we have $5 million in fund balance and capital outlays that we're holding in reserve for the match for the $15 million grant that we have. That's also available, but we've got to balance holding on to that to be ready to begin with the project that grant was designed for. So having said all that, there is about close to $2 million outside of the 2.5 already in the budget that would be available from fund balance to do additional projects that are not already identified. Now, we could add to that by looking at how it stands now in the budget and taking some of what's already appropriated and making decisions on whether we could wait on that or not. But as it stands now, there's close to $2 million available outside of this budget that could be assigned to new projects.
Where's the 2.5 million at, Eric?
If you go to the sheet, the operating budget is a stapled sheet that's on there.
Yeah.
On that front page, it shows appropriated fund balance, 2.5 million, where it shows revenue on the front page. Back to that front page right there, you'll see.
Yep, I see.
Mr. Lawson, may I ask her a question?
Yes.
Ms. Erica,
Yes,
you're saying the $5 million is set aside, let's just pretend it's set aside to match the 15 million.
yes, ma'am.
If that happens, you are saying that the school board or the Board of Education or whatever, you have $4,500,000 to do projects that we're proposing.
Outside of that five. That's
Outside of the five, it's over there by itself.
Yes,
Okay, you're saying, is that for this school year? This
Yes.
school year, the $4,500,000, this school year?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
2.5 of that for though is already budgeted. It's already in the budget. It's already included in the budget that was approved.
Right.
So what was approved in capital outlay, if the decisions are made that some of those things don't need to be done this year, we could take part of that 2.5 and reallocate it to the newer projects.
Mr. Craig, did you have something?
Yeah, just make sure I understand kind of where this was going a while ago. If you go to the 5th page of, I guess everybody's, it's got Locklear, and Jacobs to start with
Yeah.
on the front page, and if you go to the 5th page, that's got the 257,000. Okay. Page there.
Sir.
Okay, that 257,000 was what we had looked at before. This was moving the units and doing all the work that you got up there. It's on that page.
Mhm.
Now, how many units were we looking at moving to do that? Is it 5? So that's 5 units there. Okay, that's what I want to make sure of, because we threw around different numbers earlier. So that's 5 units. So then if we go back and take out that 62,000 and then turn back around and add the 245 to what left then, that's where we're coming up with the 440,000,
Correct,
buying 5 new ones.
correct.
And all of these figures here could be put into doing the 5 new ones, doing the work that needs to be done if it's contracted out.
Right.
And I will say this, we've got people can do some of this work, but one of the problems you get into is if they're there doing electrical work or plumbing work or doing whatever, and then you constantly got situations that's gonna happen in the county that they got to go fix this or fix that, and they can get pulled off. And then you run into situations that can occur with that, and that's happened before. Now, when it's not really a time limit on trying to get something ready, it doesn't matter. If you're trying to get this and get it done and get it where it can be used as quick as possible, it might cost more, but that contract say, you definitely need, I think, to look at all of it and see what could be done. I just want to make sure I understood that.
Mr. Chairman, Randy. My recommendation would be for us to go with the new ones at Townsend. And even with that, we still will be crowded. But if we end up going to, I'll get ready to say digital learning. Let me get off Mr. Roberts for the time being. If we do have to bring some students back and some still be remote, we can make it work as long as we got those units, but we definitely got to have those 5 units. And the reason I said the 5, go with the new ones, is because contractor will bring it in and we got longer longevity on those than the others. And I'm looking at the longevity for what we got to do. Should we get the money in where we can build onto the school, those units will be there permanently. If we pull from Tanglewood may need it. We don't know if we're going to use Roland Mill or not. We don't know. So my recommendation would be that we go with the new units for Townsend for the $440,950. My recommendation, and that's my theory on it, okay?
I echo the same feeling.
Mr. Chairman, is this the only bid that we have?
Well, I mean, it's going through, Mr. Gentry, what takes place is that LL&J,
They're responsible for the design and the setup. Then they'll bid this out through their company. What they are engineers. They're design and build. And engineers, they don't offer bids. They offer you their scope of work and you look over the various types of engineering firms that you want to and then choose one based on their credentials.
and through DPI, it has to go through this channel because it has to have an engineer's signature stamp whatever, right, Mr. Ernie? And that also cost. So, I mean, when you turn bids in, you turn bids in to the engineer. I mean, that's the way it's always worked. That's the way it will work. I'm gonna give you a prime example. Me and Mr. Smith met at St. Paul's, and we were looking at enlarging their weight room and stuff. And as far as the material and stuff goes, we were looking maybe $75,000.
All you gotta do is add on to a wall. I mean,
Right.
it's not like adding four.
We looked into this, and then once we turned it over to the engineers and they got through with it, and DPI got through with putting their stamp on it, it was $500,000, you know? And I mean, I'm sitting there, but that's what has to take place whenever everything has to be ADA approved. I mean, all these things, check marks has to be done. And that's why you have the engineer there, because it falls on him. It's not falling on the public schools of Robertson County if he comes up and says, well, I'm $100,000 short. He's put this out there, and if you accept it, he's gonna stay within them guidelines. You know, if we put it out there, we might could save 10,000 on each one of them, but like you said, what if we have two schools and the heat goes out or electricity, something happens, and you don't have anybody to send over there to fix it?
So in other words, this follows the same course as so many other things. It has to be DPI approved.
Correct.
All school building does.
Period. That,
Plus the existing units, we move them, we may run into rotted floors and spots.
you don't know.
Know what you're gonna run into. And you may and then if you decide you've got to have some units back at those schools, we got to go back through this process again.
Right.
And to piggyback off of what he said, you already spent a fortune moving these mobiles around the
Right.
county over the years. Now I'm talking about from my experience.
Right.
Go to now, if you could recap all that money, you could build some nice schools.
Mr. Chair,
Hang on, Miss Linda, I had Terry first.
If we move them versus, move the existing ones versus purchasing new ones, is there any kind of warranty associated with the new ones versus the older ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a couple of
Okay.
I just want to make a comment as far as the condition, and y'all would know more than I, but even way back in my day, the one at Green Grove was in pretty bad shape. The one at Tanglewood was in A+ shape. So you're absolutely right. You may start to move them and they fall apart.
Right.
But Tanglewoods was in good shape.
Well, and I'll just say this, the other night we talked about, the new ones look more feasible than the older ones. We all looked at it and seen the numbers and stuff, and then after backing out the $62,000 that you're talking about and going with new, but if that's your recommendation, then that's what we're gonna go with now.
That's
And
my recommendation.
then the other part of it, and we'll,
I think what we need to do, Mr. Randy, is let's look at the total pictures
right,
and try to prioritize.
okay,
But I mean, that's a hot issue. We all know that.
right,
I just say, let's put all the cards on the table and then start slashing.
okay,
And Mr. Chairman, to piggyback off of what you said, once you elect to go with new, you can actually go to the principal, the board, or whoever, and they can select the colors and the type of everything they want it built to look like, so.
right. A little bit more freedom.
Mr. Hammonds, should we approve this, and this should be the number one that's on our list, the Townsend issue. However, how many weeks will it take for them to put it out there, get it out there?
What are you referring to get the material?
To move the units out there?
Well, that's the first step you'd have to find out is, who you're gonna go through they already know a company. If you look at,
Yeah, I know eight companies too in here in North Carolina.
the one that supplied the one for child nutrition, that took about, I want to say from beginning to end, close to 8 months. Long in there. It depends if they got things and go with that. They build as they're ordered.
Mr. Henry?
I visited a place already, and they do have some on the lot, however, whatever the board ended up voting for.
On these new units, the H and V systems will all be new, it won't be transferred. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So there'll be
Everything
new
will be-
amenities
Definitely needed new
Brand-
combination of thousand.
associated with
It's
this.
like you're buying a home and everything
Gotcha.
has to be certified and
Mr. Hammond, you know, we already having issues, heating issues at Townsend, so,
we're on your roof now.
yeah, you are. I seen you out there. I took a picture of you.
Okay. On from that,
Yes.
hang on a sec. In your package, you should have, Shining Stars roof repairs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as you're looking over that, let me give you some food for thought. Right now. Okay. Shining Stars. Anyway, the money on the Shining Stars, some type of decision needs to happen quickly. Let me just give you an invoice for what we just had to do with mold in that building.
This, Mr. Ernie?
Yes, sir. Invoice for Shining Stars was $12,919.01. We don't own the building, and I understand we're in negotiations with the county to try to work out an agreement with that. But you see what kind of money is being compiled now, justified. If we didn't go in and eradicate that with people in there, you know what's gonna happen, they're gonna shut the building down. There goes your funding, which is what I've heard Ms. Hannah, she's on her head about, let's do what we need to do to get this as an action item and do whatever needs to be done to get this solved, because we saw one spot, but when the mold experts went in there, they went in every room, and this thing's been leaking a while. But when we got on top of the roof and I looked at it, someone didn't do the roof correctly when whoever they paid to go up there and patch that roof. It's not our building, so it's a mess.
So how much would it cost for a new roof?
331,
What's that?
331.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there. How much?
Is that
331, did it?
Our part or half part, I think.
Give me a minute, like,
331,
That's the lowest.
31, 320.
Half of
it
this.
wouldn't even be half of that, I don't think.
But be reminded again, the data that we heard at the last meeting was, if we try to move her from that building somewhere else, she loses the funding
That's right.
because
That's right.
that's the only danger that I see, and the boys and girls in the county don't need to have to.
Plus their certification.
And we don't need to lose that certification.
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Man.
did somebody respond to me?
That's Craig. I just want some clarification because Mr. Freese has been talking with Kelly about that building and about us acquiring it and splitting the cost on the roof. And that's what they were checking on, right?
Yes.
Give me just a minute. I don't have a paper, but I'm trying to run some figures and I'm not going to be exact, folks. But, the 331 you see was what I understood to be a price for the roof. The county is looking at having some FEMA money that they could use on the roof, which brings the cost down. It was roughly 185. Now, at that price, then we were talking about dividing that between the county and us. So if that's divided, that brings it down into $90-some thousand range, 94, 95,000. Now, I don't have none of this. It's not written down. That's conversations Mr. Freese has had, and I've had some with Ms. Blue. And then from there, there would be a determination about would we have the building or not? And I think if all, it's not been guaranteed or promised, but we would be looking at if all this was done, we would end up getting the building, and the building would be ours. And I will tell you on the lease agreement that I've seen, it does say, even though it is the way it is now, that if there's repairs and stuff like this, that cost is to be split by the county and the school system.
Okay.
But it does come from 331 to in the 90-some thousand dollar range if we go through with what I understand they have from FEMA and what they would be willing to put on it. It's not the 331 we see here. That was the total cost.
90K.
Let's say 90K right now.
Right, that's what I got.
Put 100 this a week,
There you go.
Yes, right, I did too.
440.
But let me just remind you what Mr. Ernie just said, that
Quickly.
we need to be moving, so we need to be talking a bunch to them.
Yeah.
And getting some things, whether they are or whether they aren't. Because in the end, like Mr. Ernie said, the funding is what we're trying to save.
Mr. Lawson?
Yeah.
There was a discussion held at one point in time before Ms. Schultz left, and remember, I used to sort of manage the money. Some of her monies at one point in time could have paid for that roof. Has anybody explored that? Miss Erica, you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and I'm aware, but I think we're gonna let that play out with the board because of some uncertainty that may be facing in the future related to, pre-K funding. So we're gonna try to see what the board could do. Right now, their funding is being guaranteed, but that guarantee may not last forever.
So I guess to answer the question, the funding as we speak could be used to help defray that $90,000
Correct. The
that
funding
Mr.
they
Craig's
get-
talking about.
The funding that they get from, the daycare portion, not
Yes.
any of the
Yes, ma'am.
pre-K or any of those other partnerships.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, Miss Erica, go ahead,
I
continue.
just wanted to mention as well, if we go back to the budget, as it seems, there's $500,000 currently in the budget for roofing that hasn't been designated or spent yet. So if the decision was made for, if it's the 94 or whichever it is, there's already money in the budget for roofing that has not been assigned to projects. I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay.
Mr. Randy, that shining stars, if it's falling in, I think that should be priority. We should,
Right, but on the same token, Mr. Henry, we don't own the building, and we've got to wait for the county commission to say what they're gonna do, because we're not gonna go dump all of it in there and let them.
but I'm just saying, whatever we do,
Right, I mean,
to make it a priority.
I think everybody's in agreement with that, right?
We could do a contingent upon it.
I think
Mr. Leach,
get something in writing from the county, we discuss it with the county, get something in writing with the lawyers or something. That way, we know we spend this money and they spend their money, we spend our money. Who's gonna own the building and who's gonna do the upkeep from here on out? I think that should be our next step.
Exactly.
I've spoken with her 2 or 3 times about the building, and from my understanding, there's an excellent chance of them giving us the building.
Right.
If we pay half of the 3-something, then they're gonna turn that building over to us.
Right.
Now, I understand that if you all are willing to pay half of it, and then when I go back to her and say, we'll do this, and then that's when I can say, put in writing that you're gonna give us the building.
Right.
right, Mr. Fontaine,
She has to talk to her board.
That's right.
They need to know if we are willing to pay half.
That's right.
We need, excuse me, but we need clarification. Now, you just said the 300 and Craig said 90.
I mean-
Is it 180 and then 90, or is it half of 300?
Yeah, my understanding was it's the half of 180. That 188 is half of that.
It was started up, yes, that's
They were
it.
split it. You're right. I mean, all that has to be clarified, put in writing, legally done.
Yeah.
And then, if they're gonna give us the building, we're getting all this done, by all means. But you got to get all that, and we got to get it all right and all legalized.
Right.
Right.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I think it should be.
And this may not be for you, but my understanding is that the pre-K 3 students are scheduled to resume in building instruction in January. Is that correct?
Yes.
Am I correct in that?
Right now, we're scheduled to go back to school January 6th.
What will be the alternative location for those students? Let's say the board approves this in construction. I'm assuming we're looking for a earliest possible beginning date. What would we do with the children in the meantime?
I think, Mr. Chairman, Randy, I think if we do agree to it tonight, contingent upon us getting the building, the commissioners meets the first Monday.
Right, but we don't meet till next Tuesday night.
Right.
What I'm saying is they could let us know,
That's why I said,
vote on it next Tuesday.
that's why I said contingent.
Right,
That'll give Mr. DeFree something to work with them on.
right. And I understand that.
I just want, from the curriculum perspective, there's a caution in moving the children. There's a caution about losing our license and our program. So that makes it more dire to get the building straight, whatever.
Right.
To give you an insight on what the last discussion was, yes, sir. The mold cleaning has been done. She calls this recent rain. We still got rain coming in naturally. The roof's still gonna leak. So the key now is we got to stay vigilant to make sure no mold comes back. So you see my point? In other words, we got to stay on top of it because I even looked to see if there was a way we could put pans over that too and, divert the water away. The way that is built, it's not built in that fashion. So that shot my idea in the head on that. But the only other thing we can do is take vigilance and just stay on top of it and just keep that mold from growing back because you don't want to pay that but one time, so.
Mike,
Mr. Ernie and Erica, the $500,000 that we have in roofing for 2021, we talk about 90,000 there. See, that's the things we're talking about. The other 400,000, we don't even have do you just make that determination, Mr. Ernie, which roof's gonna be fixed, or is it just on needs or rain coming in, or how do we know where that other $400,000 is going?
I can tell you another one that's just as bad as Shining Stars, and it's on the list tonight, St. Paul's Elementary.
Yeah.
You got 2 wings up there, it's pouring in them and the mold. Okay, let me give you what we've just spent mold on that building. Okay. St. Paul's Elementary, the mold bill for that cleanup thus far is $15,891. In fact, I found it in one area, so I told them to move the teacher out. I called the professionals in. They went ahead and they examined and it was going right on down the line, so that's.
I'm not looking at that.
How to act on it.
How much would it cost to fix that situation?
Okay, it's in your list here. Go to
153,
the last page, I think. Is that where it says?
153,700.
On LS?
St. Paul's Elementary, 153,700. I had them to do that under emergency when I saw the leak. Hathaway called me. I knew that, y'all were gonna have to take some type of immediate action on that, so I wanted to get you some good data.
St. Paul's High School, I don't see St. Paul.
Last sheet,
There's also a list here. Yeah, shit like that.
Another,
Single sheet.
They provided a list of all the schools that requested.
So, Mr. Hammonds, when our buildings are having these leaks, you don't have a tarp that can go on top of them like they do for the hurricane seasons?
the only problem is this
Temporarily, I mean.
building is so long.
Right.
How you gonna tarp that building? And it's flat.
I've seen it done. That's why I asked that. So,
But, look at the cost of that too.
Okay,
I mean, what we
I don't
normally
see,
we try to do, if it's something we can go in there for, I give you a good example of what you're asking.
FEMA had
Okay.
coverings for things like that, that's why I asked that.
It has to be a real long,
Right.
it would have to be very long.
That should be a separate one after that.
FEMA don't have any,
China Store should have 2 pages.
Chicken,
I got it.
check with my roofer suppliers and see.
okay,
But,
Be
by the time you move that direction, spend that money,
right there.
this money in there,
Got it, Mike.
these guys,
They was-
this type of roof
it was
is,
free from FEMA, that's why I said FEMA,
I understand.
but okay.
Eric, go ahead, Eric.
To answer your question, Mr. Smith, we typically start the year with a base of, say, $500 for roof. And Mr. Ernie and his expertise in maintenance make the decisions. A lot of times it ends up being emergency issues that arise, that those funds get spent on first. And then once those are exceeded, or if there are other pressing larger projects, we bring that forward on an individual basis.
Yeah, because I want to make sure we squeeze the shining stars and Fenbrook, St. Paul Elementary in. I mean, these are things that we got to do something immediately with.
I agree 100%.
Need to win a lottery.
So that's 2.5.
okay. So are y'all good with that to move on to some repairs in general?
Yeah.
Okay. And I had given this out sometime back, maybe in August August the 10th is when Mr. Ernie, gave me this, before one of our board meetings, and for y'all to take a look at it. We have Deep Branch Elementary School Gymnasium. You see the cost of it there. Lumberton High School, the auditorium, and the front entrance canopy. And I would just say I've witnessed those at Lumberton High School. That it's pouring in, and I don't know if they found where it's coming from or not. I know.
The whole roof is filled, that's the problem. And that goes back to what, Furby was referring to. When you have a large roof, especially with old and the membrane is worn out and gone, the same thing at Deep Branch. We spent a good amount of money there to get a patch on the roof. That was over the meeting. And that's just a temporary patch, so you can see if you don't ultimately hit those roofs, they're gonna come back at us, so just put a Band-Aid on it. Not careful.
St. Paul's High School, Fairmont High School, Townsend Middle, pre-K classroom building. Rosenwald, Orem Middle School Gymnasium.
Is these prices, Randy and Mr. Ernie, is these prices on here, are these?
Yes, sir.
Patching.
Yes, sir.
This is fixing.
Right.
If you want to see what type of roof it is, go to Highway 74, our new maintenance department. That thing used to leak like I don't know what. That type of roof was put on there with some insulation. Feel like air conditioning in there now.
Yeah.
No water whatsoever. And it's a quick operation too. I was amazed at how fast that was done.
I witnessed the St. Paul's High, and now what I understand, we put a roof over a roof.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
That's a double roof.
Yeah. Then you have Purnell Sweat High School, the Office Media Center, and then East Robinson. And I'm just speaking for East Robinson. I get calls every time it rains of roof falling in over there. So it's probably one of the last schools that was built in the county, but it's never had a roof on it. Am I right?
It's been reshingled. It has been reshingled.
Right.
It's been years ago.
Right.
Back when it was during the Saks.
Right.
Back in the Saks.
So you've got the information there, how you want to break them down. Mike, I mean,
Let's ask.
Witness the deep.
Right quick.
okay.
Erica, We flip back and forth between finance and construction.
That's fine.
This is just informal, so everybody can ask any, the 15 million that we got, 5 million, you say you got 5 million on hold, because
For the
three,
match.
the match,
For the match,
yeah.
yes.
But the 15 million, and I know we're still looking at the FEMA money, we all optimistic that's gonna come at some point in time, the 87 million or whatever. But the 15 million, we can spend it, as long as we got that 5, we can spend the 15 at any time, or
It has to be for new construction.
all that has to be new construction.
$15 million has to be considered some type of new construction.
The mobile units is
A
new
wing,
construction.
A new building, it has to be considered new, meet DPI's definition of new construction.
Okay, that's what I need, because that's, to.
And that doesn't encounter mobiles.
It does not, it
Was
would not
not covered
include
under that.
wings, no,
Well,
they
these
don't count. Just FYI,
2x4s.
St. Paul's High plus all these projects, not including the 94 Shining Stars, but they all add up to $884,700.
That's what we need.
For all the roofs.
For all the roofs minus Shining Stars, that doesn't include Shining Stars. Add the 94,000 for Shining Stars, you're at 978,700. There's already $500,000 in the budget.
Right. So in actuality, we're right at 350 in the hole to start with if we were to do everything.
478.
Yeah.
And that's without unforeseen,
But that, and Randy, that doesn't include East Robinson or Purnell Sweat, because you don't have any figures there.
That's correct. That was the next thing I was gonna
Right.
say. It doesn't include that last page because there's some costs there.
Right. But
Erica, we have a list of schools that have requested repairs for the roof. How many is on that list? About
12.
12 more. And some might be duplicated. We have another list. This was done in August, and this list is for September.
Yep.
Request.
okay.
So they need to be, if you want to look at all of the roofs, these plus that group.
We don't have a dollar amount on it.
You don't have a dollar amount, no.
Mr. Craig?
Ms. Erica, this is, I'm gonna say partly come in here, probably a lot with you. Let me go back to this 15 million. That 15 million, there's a matching of 5 million. Now, we got our fingers crossed, we don't know what'll happen if we get the FEMA money, some of that could be used. For the 5 million, we got a match, and we're hoping we might can get it somewhere else. We've got 5 million set aside for that.
That is correct.
Okay, that 5 million, some of it could be used for these roofs.
It could.
It could.
Everybody would just be aware that we wouldn't be in a position to start on the $15 million grant because we don't have our match.
That's right. That's what I wanted to bring out, that you could use some of that if we were gonna look at doing all of these. Now, with the 15 million, we are clear, we're not gonna be using that, we said, unless we get the FEMA money. That, our using that 15 million is kind of contingent on getting that FEMA money if we're looking at new school, as we had said one time, a tech school. But just to put it out there, some of the 5 million could be used, but if they come in, I think we have the whole next year to get that 15 million something started. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
You have to start it.
There are probably provisions in place to extend it.
Extend it. And cause there was, just to add to that, this year, they didn't give all that money out with the state. That 15 million like we got, they opened it back up. And we did check on applying again, but you can only get it once in a year.
right?
I was hoping they'd just divide what they had out and give us, there's only 4 systems in the state got the money this past year, but they wouldn't do that. So they might be an extension if something didn't happen in the 2021 school year.
It's also important to remember, once we start using the 15 million along with the 5 match, we're not eligible to get lottery funds for 5 years. So that will be a gap in our budget that we need to everybody think about big picture. that we would need to have some in reserve because we would not receive lottery funds once we started with that process. And that is about $1.5 million a year that we get from lottery.
So Ms. Erica, we only get the 5 million matching after we have begun to spend the 15 million. Is that correct?
Right, they would work in conjunction with each other.
But the
We're not
5 million
sure if
is-
it will be front-ended on the project or on the back end. It's not, we hadn't got to those details yet because we don't have a project ready.
But we could, once we started using the 15 million, we could then begin to get the 5 million matching, and that would be eligible to cover some of, or all of the roofing.
That's
Hopefully
correct.
all of the roofing.
15 million, Mr. Chairman, is definitely more than what we'll be getting from the lottery for 5 years.
But how much is that? 5 years at 1.5? That's 77.
7.5. So you doubled your money.
All right, Randy.
On the bus garage, Mr. Ernie, as far as on the technology part, on the roofing.
Okay.
I'm going down this list because that's what I've got in front of me now. Okay, but you have the bus garage, number 4 is Hargrave. Here,
The technology, Mr. Chairman,
What,
what was in it?
excuse me, what list are you using? How does it look?
The one that's got 12 on it.
It's a separate
What is
sheet.
the title then?
It's a sheet by itself, Mr.
it's what was in our packet, roof repair request since September.
Okay, that's the one.
don't have-
Right, this is I guess this is the
It doesn't-
second list.
Dollar amount.
Oh,
Right, and there's no funds on it, it's just, this is what, I'm just going over it because you're through now with the big one.
Mr. Chairman, at transportation, their building is similar to ours at 74, and it would just be a matter of getting you some numbers on that.
Okay.
The same type of roof would work there.
I've got,
It's well needed because their metal is about like ours was. It's
Right.
similar.
Are these in priority as far as what you evaluated?
I don't know, that's probably just how they came in. I haven't seen that list, so.
I did. Those are calls that I received from schools about the leaks.
right,
No particular order.
No,
right. I just wanted to go over them with you because you got it in front of you and you're wanting to know what it is.
Transportation would be considered a hot potato.
Right.
to deal with.
You've got Hargrave, Prospect, WH Knuckles, Deep Branch, Rex Renard, Lumberton High, again. And some of these are duplicated. Red Springs High, Fairmont High, St. Paul's High. I want to share one thing with you in the past, and this is for, new board members' information. I think it was Pembroke, the new gym floor was put down.
After a new roof.
Right. At Orem Middle, there was a new gym floor put down because there was the water lines are under the gym floor. Now that might be rerouted now, Mr. Ernie, it's still there, right? But any of these things that we have had new stuff done, we need to take care of the roofs on them so we're not paying twice.
Right.
I mean, that's my philosophy. And I see these things keep popping up and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we just done something at Purnell.
Yeah.
But we, in order to do that, we've got to, was it the bleachers changed out or had they've been changed out also? I mean, and if there's an issue over there, we need to get on that because I know it's one of the freshest ones.
Mr. Chairman, you're referring to Purnell. You're not talking about the main gym, hopefully, because there's a new roof on that one.
Right,
We're talking about the mini gym.
probably.
Yeah, the mini gym. And one more thing to be conscious of, that mini gym has a mercury floor on it. Remember, we addressed that one on the old Purnell. So
Yes,
mercury is something you have to abate, which is very expensive.
right.
So But the mini gym, there's some problems with that roof, definitely.
Right, and this was in our packet, I'm sharing it with you. You know, if these are in your district, you need to go take a look. I'm sure Mr. Ernie knows about all of them. I mean, he's got to run, he's
The
got
only one that's got me buffaloed here is the Hargrave. We got new metal roofs here, so I want to know which building.
Yes, it's on the list. It was raining the last,
Yeah, there's,
the roofers were here.
In the HR department.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that,
I
yeah.
know I saw that.
Yeah, that's a minor repair, that's,
Yeah, that's a voluntary repair, that's all.
okay,
that's a minor
Right.
repair.
I would have said,
I witnessed Rex Renter, this major, we had mold in Rex Renter. And it was still moisture in the building. And I was there, I went out there on a day that it was raining. And there's condensate actually coming through the ceilings.
Where did it?
Rex Renter.
That's,
Andy, what we
sound like,
probably need to just get it,
what time of the month was that, Mr. Brewer?
like you got it.
Summer,
Yeah,
between fall and summer?
yeah.
It was springtime.
But that's elementary also. And I'm looking at the ideal too, we're bringing our pre-K to third grade back first.
Right. But my question was there a leak coming through the ceiling or was it just moisture in the building?
It was coming from the ceiling on the outer side of the classrooms.
Okay,
right.
And it was like it was following an I-beam, and it was just like you could
I
see
got
a
it.
complete line, similar to Deep Branch Gymnasium.
gotcha.
They had 55-gallon trash cans catching the water coming through the gymnasium.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Mr. Freeze, can you give us just a sheet of this right here to give Mr. Ernie so that he can just work
Yes.
on, and those may be minor repairs. I don't think they're major.
Well, there's some of them that are because,
Well, they're gonna need to be added to the other list then, that,
Should have them.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hamels, were any of these damaged by the hurricane?
no ma'am. That's the first thing we normally look at. And we try to play, fair with them because when we do sustain damage, we got a good rapport with them. So they know when we call. If we're not trying to
Right,
fix
right,
it.
right, okay.
But now, the only place that we got hurt one time was at East Robinson, over the dining area. We knew that happened under, the first hurricane, but, for some reason FEMA didn't want to help us with it.
That's right.
And that thing is still there, so that's the one that's the reason we put that on the list. We got to do something there.
Okay. Our next on the agenda is HVAC repairs.
Get one of the weights and,
Huh?
get one of the weights and rack.
I'm sorry.
Thank-
The weight and rack safety concerns at Purnell Sweat High School.
Okay, currently, I know we, did the mold in there. And, to give you an update on that field house, I talked with, Robert with LL&J. He and I are going there hopefully this week or the following week to look at the HVAC system. Give you a history of that. When that building was built, it was not designed for HVAC. So they added HVAC to it. And it wasn't, what I would consider a first-class job, from my opinion. So, that was an afterthought in essence. So we need, to look at that. And update the board, we're looking at the new iWave technology, which can take out all of the viruses in the air. And that's something that we're getting ready to do a few trial tests on, especially with the students coming back. And matter of fact, they met here with the superintendent and individuals here, and they got rave reviews. Homeland Security uses that as well as Duke University and all of the hospitals. That's a new technology that's out. Very low maintenance. I've never been interested in it because of all of the work that has to be done to maintain the old systems. This new system is a self-cleaning system. So that's something that we're looking at putting in our field houses too. Because how many of you have ever noticed the odors in the field houses? Well, that takes the odor out after 24 hours of operation, 24 to 48 hours. So, and it also kills viruses. So that's what we're looking at from that aspect. I'll hush on that.
The cost,
On what now?
the cost.
It's $400 for residential model. And
You talking about the cost for the safety weights and rack safety
Oh,
concerns.
back at Purnell, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you're-
Purnell, we done the mold cleaning, and also we took and, got the new floor in, Mr. Maynard. He's done us a good deal on that, because I think he put the original floor in, so we got a good price on that. And, the only thing left now is the weights and those materials, and I have to, refer that to Mr. Jerome and, the coaches over there.
So you don't have a cost on that?
I don't, no ma'am.
Mr. Craig?
Andy, let me go back and address a couple of things. And the roof was replaced in the main gym at Sweat.
Right.
That was after a floor was put down and it started leaking on that new floor. Cost another floor possibly, but the roof was actually replaced, which didn't include the small gym. It was just the main one. And I think what they got on here is just office and media center for some leaks there, and I don't have no idea of the cost there. In the weight room, Mr. Ernie, as you mentioned, it's my understanding that, Southern Interiors has gave us a price. They haven't got this floor in yet. The old floor did have to be taken out. There is information in here, folks, and I know this was, it was arrived at probably a couple of years ago about weights there. Just for your information and what you're seeing in front of you, there's a picture, if you find it in here. I think this is showing like $56,000. The weights that are in there now, if it's barbells and stuff, and I got some pictures if anybody wants to see them, they're full of rust. And where you see these weights here on the side that these pins are holding these weights on, those pins there have been welded. And they've been welded sometimes more than once
3 times?
because they've broken off. And then you put these weights on them and they could always break off, fall on somebody, and some of these weights are 40 and 50 pounds. And so that's the safety issue as far as what's going in there with the weights itself in the room itself. And that's why it was brought up from that standpoint. They have deteriorated, these racks especially. I looked at some of them actually today, and where you see like 4 weights sitting on this rack here, every one of them in most cases have been welded. And then some where they've been welded, they've broken off, and they are afraid to weld them again.
And
So
Mr. Chairman,
that's that.
I'm gonna give this over to Mike because it's athletics, but it's finance.
That's information. I said,
don't forget those are class.
56,000 up here.
Right.
And that's one price, you know, you might could get some other prices, but that was pretty much replacing everything in there, what I understand.
Good with that?
And you mentioned earlier, Andy, about St. Paul's High. And from our Mr. Suggs, Jason Suggs says here in his letter, it's a rapidly growing area. And the weight room, locker rooms are disgraceful.
Well, right here on our paper, it says extend the weight room and outfit St. Paul's. I mean, I'm just putting it out here. Where y'all want to put it at on the list, we need to start a running tally like we did before. Where we're gonna put each school. But like I said, this happened, what, 4 years ago?
It's been a long.
Probably 4 or 5 years ago. Mike and myself met up there, and I mean, something needs to be done. Just thankful that, I mean, I'm just saying that they're not playing now. Because
Erica, back to the 15, if you went to St. Paul's High School and you added a wing to the existing weight room, would that be considered new construction?
And we would have to get DPI's opinion on if that met their criteria of new construction. That's what we. I don't know, it is a classroom, but it's also athletic facilities. I don't know their view on that. If they look at it as a percentage of it being a classroom versus athletics, I don't know that. I would have to find that out because we haven't had this $15 million before.
And that goes back to Red Springs High School. If we talked about those athletic fields and you build a room up there for not a weight room, but concessions and all the other things that go with it, that's new construction.
But that would not count because there's no classroom instruction occurring.
So you think it has to be related with,
I think it most definitely has to be related to classroom
Well,
instruction.
in the weight room, they have weightlifting 1, weightlifting 2.
They have classes in there
Right,
now.
I said that, but if he said if they build a room for concessions, that wouldn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get.
Also Mr. Chair, with St. Paul's, the Title IX was an issue because the girls couldn't be in there with the boys. They had to go to a substandard area to do their weightlifting, and that, we were also told way back 5 years ago.
Right.
We have a problem if this ever goes to court.
Right.
Because the girls were had to go outside in some kind of classroom. They were not getting to use the facility.
It's obvious we need a new high school in the St. Paul's area. Maybe let's-
And also, if I actually seen the size of the weight room where Doc Rob and them is, they ain't much bigger than this right here. And you talking about 30 kids in there. It got so bad that when, they doing their little workout for football, that the, trainer told them they had too many people, but they was actually following the guideline. So half of them had to go outside in bad weather because of the room in there.
That's right.
Where was that at?
St. Paul's.
Yeah.
It ain't much bigger than this space right here.
It's a large, school,
It's less than a 25 by 25.
a lot of students.
Same size as Fairmont and Red Springs, all of them are built alike.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
that what he just said proves the point, because I've been an observer over the years. They always would do something just to get it done, but no planning was put into it. In other words, well, they got one now, this school's got one. What you're doing now is the right way, because you've got to plan this thing out and look at how many students you're gonna serve. When you spend your money, you spend it one time. See, you're having to revisit, rush up things that was done prior to this now. That's what you're having to deal with, and we deal with it all the time.
Right, every day.
The intent was to build a new school, remember when we did that study? New schools, the intent was to build a new school back over there in that area because of the growth of St. Paul's students.
Ms. Attorney, a makeover of the auditorium at Lumberton High School, that's what's on the agenda.
Yeah, one of the things up there is naturally the roof. Roof has got to be looked at first and foremost, and that, they've been talking about getting the new lighting system in there.
Right, in the auditorium.
Right.
And
Now,
I'm just,
I don't know how far in depth they want to go with the retrofitting of the seats and any changing of the ceiling and all that.
but there's a lot of electrical and stuff that needs to be done at Lumberton High School auditorium.
And that's the lighting system.
Right.
And the seats too.
The seats,
Yes,
Makeover.
and like I said, what degree of
Exactly.
seats, that would have to be determined
Right.
by
I
the.
had somebody look at that with Randy, didn't
that's what I thought.
figure that later.
There was, just on the electrical, and I'm thinking,
The lighting,
yeah, I think it was something over $100,000 just for that, because it's old stuff that's in there. They don't even make it no more. You can't repair it. When something goes out, it's out. So, I mean,
2 years ago too, wasn't it?
right, that's when we,
Higher now.
yeah. It's also got install awnings, at the back of Lumberton High School. It's got awnings, installing awnings at the back of Lumberton High School. I don't know where that come from.
near the, where your students get off the bus.
Oh, yeah, she's the bus loading ramp area.
Yep, I know where it's at now.
Yep, that's correct.
And then, the paving Rex Renner parking lot.
Yes, may I
Yes.
speak to that?
Yes.
It has, at least 8 years ago, this was in the project to, when they were doing things in rotation, and it got bumped off. Miss Turner knows, it got bumped off. And this is an area of the, and there are many areas of our system that seems to get bumped off because of needs, high school needs, or whatever needs. And this is an area to at least that they could get just a little bit of paving in that area. Because it's been put on the bottom of the list at least 3 times to my knowledge when they were doing needs assessments. So that's why it's on here to just see if you could give it some attention, at least pave part of it, repave part of it.
But now, Ms. Attorney, the state, and I don't know, I mean, I've been up there several times,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly where the bus drop off is. But now, as far as the payment there, the state pays for that, correct?
In most cases, they maintain that for us, and every once in a while, they'll get a little extra money and do some extra paving for us. So
Right,
that's the only on the bus lane there.
right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it, but I'm saying you got to come in
Yeah.
at some point, and if it connects to it, then,
But go up and look at the dips and the stuff on the side and everything. They just need some attention, just,
It's eroded.
just don't bump them off again. If they could just get some attention with paving.
Because they was, what have been done in 2017, remember?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And in your packet, there is one of the, track repairs. Mike, you want to comment on this as far as, track repairs? We voted sometime, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah. The plan was just like the air conditioning, we was gonna do each track one a year. We did Lumberton High School and we did St. Paul's High School. We need to do, Fairmont and Red Springs. You know, if you're gonna follow protocol.
Do you have
There was some concerns up there at St. Paul. Jason had some concerns with the work that was done. That should have been addressed when the work was done.
Right,
But it was done. St. Paul's High School and Lumberton High School were done.
right.
You got Purnell Sweat, you
And,
got Lumberton, and you got Purnell Sweat, Red Springs, and Fairmont.
and one reason, and I'm just commenting on this, one reason St. Paul's was done maybe first or either second. I know Lumberton and them, because they, at that time, they had students that was winning state championships, and I mean, all your track was coming from St. Paul's.
They still got a good program.
Right, but the thing about it is that they couldn't hold an event the way the track was. So we put it to get it done up front. So, but of course, Red Springs, Fairmont,
Purnell Sweat.
right, and Purnell Sweat needs to get theirs also. So, Miss Erica, my question is in the athletic monies that we, maybe 2 years ago, where is that standing now as to the repairs to the tracks?
So in each year, we take and we have a budget. If anything isn't used, then it gets put back in fund balance. So we don't keep a running tally of anything for tracks, but that fund balance can be reallocated each year. And I actually did not present a budget with anything in for tracks because of the issue that's occurring at St. Paul's. There was some discussion in the past amongst the board that we wouldn't move forward with any other tracks until that issue was cleared up. But if that's not the case now, you know, we can reassign some of the fund balance to start back with the track projects.
Okay, Mr. Fontaine?
two questions. Number one, how much is it, how much do it cost for a track? What's the cost?
Spent probably $500,000 in there per site, right?
The at Lumberton Senior, we spent $262,000, and at St. Paul's, it was almost 183. And then I think progressively,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think progressively, at that point, it was less as you went down to schools, but that's been some time since that happened, so there have to be others.
Read them off again.
Lumberton High School, $262,000, and St. Paul's High was $182,675.
Now, my question number two is, how do we put a track in at a high school and, they couldn't hold meets and stuff? They didn't put it in regulation?
No, they could, they couldn't do the competitions because it was unsafe to run on.
After we got it installed?
Right, but it was already installed. We went and repaired the top of it. That's what the board did, and we put all of them on a list, and this is the way we done. St. Paul's fell in, I think, second. But, being that was done, I don't know what's going on now because I didn't know there was anything wrong with it now. I hadn't heard that. This is the first time I've heard it tonight about the track at St. Paul's not being
They ain't saying, I'm not saying you can't, it's not functional now, I'm just saying there were some issues. Erica might know because her husband, she
Right.
probably knows more than I do.
I don't really, I'm reading off this paper. It says the track is currently having issues with the asphalt base crumbling under the track surface.
That should have been fixed with.
That should be fixed to start off. That should not happen. If we went and put new track on there years ago, that should not be happening. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
How can they put it on there? Whoever got to do it or whatever, how is that being wrong? And we doing the track that's already, talk about less than 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh, it's,
2018, right?
Yeah, that's a 5 year. That's what,
yeah.
The best way to address your track and to solve it is to go ahead and get your professionals who deal with tracks. Let them, look over all your tracks. Get your estimated cost on what it's gonna take to bring them up. Then once you bring them up, then you put in a yearly maintenance on them, just like you do asphalt.
Right, but that,
There you have to be diligent though, in order to maintain them. Then you won't be spending the money that Mr. Leach is referring to. But you got to have a profession. You just don't get, a company says, I'll come in and put your top on it. You got to have someone who
yeah.
builds tracks and knows tracks.
right,
Yeah,
And I-
that was the case. We're supposed to have.
right, that's what I thought. So all I know to do is get up with Mr. Jerome and see where we stand on that. So, and I,
Maybe Erica, just talking off the cuff now, maybe if we say we're gonna do Fairmont or Red Springs or Purnell, whoever we hire, maybe they can look at St. Paul's and see if it's something they can correct without being real costly,
right.
get it correct.
What warranty is on the track though? It's a track, gotta have a 3 to 5 year warranty on it.
Right, but we don't, I have no idea. There was a different athletic director at that time
Put the track in.
and,
One of the issues I heard at St. Paul's is when they were cutting grass, using the mower and going across that track, driving and making turns on it. So don't forget now, sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot too and want to go back. And I'm not addressing what you were talking about. I'm just referring to, I do know that was one of the cases because I talked with a guy that does tracks.
Yeah,
He looked at it and he said, that's what's going on out there at that point.
yeah. Erica's got her hand up, Randy.
Initially, what was said, you see the large price difference between Lumberton and St. Paul's.
Yes.
I don't know all the details of this, so I'm going based on what was given to me secondhand, but there's a layer underneath the track that was removed and replaced at Lumberton, and that was not done at St. Paul's. So there's some kind of a base layer that goes down first. I don't know if it's concrete, I don't know what it's made of. But at Lumberton, all of that was dug up and they started almost from scratch and replaced everything at Lumberton High School. At St. Paul's High, they left that base layer, added the new asphalt and everything to it, and that's why it's crumbling, because they started with a bad base.
That would explain it.
Or to do it like.
But it's saying here that it's gonna cost more to redo Lumberton than it is St. Paul.
Right, because they removed completely everything at Lumberton, and they didn't do that.
Lumberton's already been complete.
It's already been,
That's already been
Lumberton's,
it's already been done.
Okay, you're saying that justified that other 100,000.
correct. That's what justifies the additional cost, is they did more work at Lumberton High.
I thought they took the top off, Erica, to be honest with you. I mean,
I really have no idea.
I thought that's what, well, Mr. Craig, I'm sorry.
No problem. But yeah, the first two's been done.
Yeah.
Now, there's whatever problems at St. Paul's is there. And, just as a comment, if, I do think this is one of the things we've kind of got in trouble with before. When we said we were going to do 2 a year till we finished, or 1 a year until we finished. And then things happen and we get off track. And it gets put to the wayside. So it just as food for thought, my suggestion would be to just get with Mr. Jerome, get somebody to come in here, since this is something that's been on the burner, and get some prices on what it would cost to do tracks. Let them check St. Paul's too, and let's see if we can move on with getting this around to all the schools.
Right.
I
agree.
Back on, whatever's happening at St. Paul's is happening, but it does need to be looked at and see if we can get on with Fremont, Red Springs, and then Swift.
And then
All these tracks, if I'm not mistaken, tracks are probably, other than the first two, are the original tracks at those schools.
Right.
I don't know if there's ever been any refurbishing or much done to them. So, and I can tell you, and I know it's not on there tonight,
Have,
but they have been, but I can tell you what's gonna come up too, later on, is tennis courts. We got some tennis courts, it's hard to hit a ball on without that ball hitting a crack, and no telling which way it's going.
Yeah, I can tell you right up Red Spring.
Yeah, go to any high school out in there, they're in bad shape.
Right. Mr. Vontae, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, my only comment, I agree with Mr. Craig, but I also need to we need to vent whoever put these tracks and stuff down. I mean, there's no way we should be having this issue. I'm just going back to having this issue and stuff.
Right.
We need some highly qualified people that just deal with track, that put services down. That's what I'm saying.
that's right.
And I think that's what we got before, it's supposed to be, but something happened, something's happened.
Well, and one thing, and I'm gonna just share this, we had 2 hurricanes during that process, and
Image
listen, when all that water comes, it moves a lot of things.
does.
A grain of sand can move and, then a whole dirt pile moves, and I'm just throwing that out there because I don't know, I didn't know we had an issue with St. Paul's, but I do now.
And we do need to monitor that because there is landscape funding from disasters. So we do need to monitor that.
We have on here,
Randy,
oh, sir,
can we take a break,
yep,
15-minute break?
yep.
I think you got some food in it, don't you?
Of course.
Mr. Craig?
We have a motion to, have a recess,
10 minutes?
10 minutes. And Mr. Henry made the motion to recess, can I have a second? Miss Brenda made the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we will reconvene the meeting now at this time.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Bathroom doors renovations for restrooms in the finance building at Hargrave.
That's already in motion.
It is?
Yes, sir. You can check that one off.
I'ma check it off.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which one was that?
What happened with
Bathrooms and renovation.
in finance? Mr. Bullard, Jason, our locksmith, he was working with the contractor with us on that, and when he left, now Mr. Ray has got to pick back up, so he and I discussed that today, so that's already in the process of getting done. And the fixtures in the curriculum building, we had a problem getting those the right type because of the old basin, we're on top of that.
Okay.
So we can take that off too?
Yes, sir, you can take that off.
Goes off, okay.
Yeah,
And the renovations at Hargrave are already a part of the original budget, so that's why that's able to be checked off. That was already in the budget that the board approved.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we just, it goes back to what Mr. Smith alluded to earlier. We were doing that one in-house, changing the fixtures out, and since then we had a COVID crisis with the department and backups and you name it, so.
Okay.
We're on top of it.
Remove toilet stalls, from old bathrooms, covers, workrooms for teachers at Deep Branch. Is that,
Okay, I'll let Mr.
okay, Mr. Craig?
Lawson, I'll speak to that one and that one back up at paving for IEA. But the Deep Branch situation, there was new restrooms put in there now, it's been about maybe 4 years ago. And the old restrooms at Deep Branch School, water's been cut off. And it's been requested just to go in there and take the stalls out, take the toilets out, and convert those into like teacher workrooms or workstations on that campus. Because they're basically sitting there now, it's just a little room with the stalls and everything in it, and it's just stuff in there, and it could be something that could be used for teachers or people just coming in. It's, we get all these different social workers and stuff like that. It would be something that could be used there if the stalls and everything was taken out, and you'd have to do a little bit of work inside. But that's been, it's been requested a few times, I'll put it like that. The pay, you have a question?
Can I make this, workers do that work?
Yes, I think this is something that our workers,
Okay, yeah.
I think, Mr. Ernie, our workers could take care of that. If our workers could do that.
Between us and the contractors, we'll do our part, and, if it's where something's gonna take a little more time, we bring them in, just knock it out quick.
But I'm sure like,
We work it together, we always.
it could be done.
Yeah, I just want to make.
Yes, sir.
It's not a cost.
The paving at IEA, and I don't mind saying, this is something I checked on after we sold some land to the university, last year for them to do some, building at their place and a parking lot. And the land around IEA it was sold for $75,000. And IEA is another place that I think in the front and in the back, it needs some paving. And I was just had this put on here from the standpoint of that money was sold, the land was sold, and had someone to come there and take a look at it. Nothing concrete, just giving me some ideas at the time. And just for whenever we could bring it up, now's a good time just to bring it up. And one thing that was being waited on, the college is fixing a building and doing a parking lot. It was to let them finish everything they were doing, so we wouldn't go in there possibly and do paving and then get it tore up. Them still working out there. So the front of IEA, I know, and at the back, there's gonna need some parking in some places that could be used for paving, but at this time, this was information. And, like I said, the land was sold for $75,000, so it had been just looked at or talked about using that money to do some of the paving at IEA and in education.
Right. And I had it checked on here, Mr. Craig, when we went to break. I was checking ahead and I missed it.
No problem.
But that's good. And I'll go back to, back when we had the storms, the roof was redid.
Yes, sir.
At the IEA, and it looks good over there.
The roof and what they had to do inside compared to the way that building looked after the last storm. The building and all, it looks good. And I don't know where they are. They did apply for a grant, but I don't think they've heard from that grant yet.
Still in the process.
Still in the process. I know the last time they hadn't got a final word.
It's moving along good though from reports.
Good.
Maybe, Craig, whenever the college, the wing they're adding on has got to be some paving done, maybe we can tie those in together, maybe.
Might work, it would help, when because they're gonna pave a whole parking lot next to what we were looking at.
Right.
So
Well,
I can make some checks there just to see if, when they get to that point, could they talk to
I'm
us?
just call you, yeah.
check on the leftovers. Sometimes university have leftovers next to property, give it to us.
We'll check on it.
Mike, I'm gonna let you do,
Well, we got vacant maintenance staff, and you got an asterisk staff. I'm working on that closely.
Yes, recommendations have been made. I think we have probably about 4 or 5 at the next board meeting.
Next thing was high school top threes. I'd called Mr. Freese and asked her to call all 5 principals. It's in your packet. Asked 3 high schools, 5 high schools, top 3 things that they felt they needed. That you can see. Lumberton, Red Springs, Fairmont, and St. Paul's, and Purnell. So, basically, if what we could do is talk with Erica, and we could try to knock out 2 or 3 of these projects and see about the money. And I know we talked about Townsend Middle, because we don't own Shining Star, but if it becomes ours, and I feel like it is gonna become ours.
Oh,
How much money we talking in Red Springs?
could we do this at our next board meeting, contingent upon the land, it belonging to us?
Yeah.
Because we need to get on this one right away, as soon as possible, right after the board meeting.
Yeah,
We probably will know something
right,
by the next board meeting.
sure.
Yeah,
I think we.
And if you'll all have that as a recommendation, contingent upon ownership.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
that's it. I think everybody's agreed it's contingent on the ownership.
What was your question about Red Springs, Henry?
I was asking, how much monies are we, speculating for the repairs at Red Springs? The reason why I'm saying that is because, Red Springs, I understand, is the next, category to receive funding from the previous school board to go with the sports athletic fields, and it was stopped. And I know during my campaign, there was a lot of question about Red Springs. And I'd like to see us accommodate them somehow, some fashion with their needs with athletics, if that's what it's about. And I just see softball field, but I see roof repairs.
When I talked with, Mr. Campbell about it, he wanted to move his softball field to the base, next to the baseball field. I think it's at the Tom Coates
Tom Code.
Bronco.
facility. And he said that would be better for them
That's right.
at this time. That was his recommendation. He said, because when you're chaperoning and for supervision of students, if you're having a softball game here and a baseball game here, it's difficult
It is.
to supervise.
How much funds are we talking about?
Just to move the softball field, the girls softball field out there. I don't know if all y'all familiar with that. He's talking about out at the old mill village where the baseball field is at. Put the softball field behind the baseball field. And we got 800, we got, Eric, 750,000 still in the budget. Well, we don't have anything in there. She took it out. Took it out of this year's budget, 2021, so there's 0 there, but we had 750. Yeah.
That's correct. I was just gonna clarify, there was never a clear direction for me to know how much to move forward with.
Right.
Kind of stalled out, as Mr. Ford said. So we moved it to 0 to kind of get that conversation back again to see where the new starting point would need to be.
But theoretically, Henry, or everybody else, I mean, if that's You know, and see, I ain't even talked to him. He called me, but he's the principal. You want to if you want to build a softball field out there, you could probably build that real reasonable. I don't know, I don't have a figure in mind, but you could probably,
I think we need to do something for that school.
could do that. If you do that, then in my opinion, the whole place would need to be fenced in. And they got fenced in cinder block wall, but I'm talking about up to the main road, you put a 6-foot chain link fence around it.
A question. Now, so I know where Tom Coates' field is. That's where the center block is.
Right.
So, Mr. Henry, are we saying that's where they play baseball now?
Correct.
So he's saying move the softball field to that Tom Coates Park.
That's what it's on this.
Now, I mean, and I'm just gonna say, if that's the request, we had looked at, and the money he was talking with Miss Erica was down from the high school, building a baseball, softball complex there.
Yes.
That's what got stopped the other year.
Right.
Money. That's what we were looking at doing because they had never had a baseball, softball field on their campus. So this throws a totally different wrinkle into what we had talked about.
Okay, let me explain this.
Okay.
He's saying, I guess because it was stopped, that it wasn't going to be done. So instead of, if he can't have that, this is what he would want.
Alternative.
This is a backup plan.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm just
So I
trying to get clear.
Because I know he would love to have it at his school, but if he can't have it there, then this is what he would want.
Now, even, even if we get this request to put it where you want it, at the Coates, Tom Coates Sports Complex. Now, going forward, let's look at this. We're not gonna come back and say, hey, we're gonna build you one out here, where you wanted it at last year. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. You can't put one
In 2 places.
currently played, come out 3 or 4 years down the road and say, we want a complex out here.
You gotta remember, we gotta deal with the town of Red Springs
I know,
for that land.
yeah, but dealing with Tyler Red Springs, over to say you can't.
I mean,
One or the other.
because they own it, that's why I said that.
I just got a question.
I think what he's talking about, he ain't talking about moving it from the high school. Right beside Tom Coates, the county owns a baseball field,
Right.
football field. I think that's what he's referring to, using it there, because now the way they're playing, the baseball on this side of town, softball's on this side. I think he wants to just put both of them close by side almost. Only thing separating is a wood line. I don't know if we have to bring it up to code or anything.
I don't think, no, I haven't talked to him, but I don't think that's true, John. Behind Tom Coates, there is a softball.
Yeah, that's
field.
what I'm talking about there, yeah,
Noah Woods, named that Noah Woods Field.
Right.
yeah.
I think what their conception is to build one, if you're facing Tom Coates, to the right of Tom Coates, that little field where that kudzu is or whatever. That's my understanding, is the place. There used to be a little league field there 25 years ago. I think that's what they would, the complex, it'd be side by side. Then you still, if you move it over there to the county field, then you still got to cross that ditch or go get out, you still got to get out on the road. If you build it over here behind it, it's all right there together.
But does we own Tom Coates or town own?
Town of Red Springs on Tom.
Town of Red Springs.
Lease with them, that we've been leasing.
Do we need to get more detail on that for the next board meeting?
But we need to decide, I can talk to them, I mean, I don't want them, concept, we bought the land to put the baseball field and softball field on.
For sporting complex.
Yeah. And I don't know if we talk about long-range plans like we had 750, if you say, we're gonna put so much back a year, get Erica, cut some out of the roofing or wherever you wanna cut it out, 500,000 roofing, and
We wouldn't own it.
just, it needs to be a plan if in fact that's what you wanna do at some point in time.
And I think,
Been voted on by the prior board. This board hadn't voted on it, but we voted on it one time before.
Mr. Chairman, I think depending on how much money we end up spending, it need to be what we own versus someone else owning it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I'd like to see it built myself, and I can talk to the principal, but I think like Lewiston says, that's kind of a compromise.
Yeah,
Build a field, but you don't want to spend 200,000.
right,
Build a girls softball field, and that goes back to what Mr. Manuel said earlier, Title IX again.
right.
Got an issue that
Right.
So that's something.
I think my personal opinion is the sports complex.
Yeah.
We spend 200,000, I want it to be out there.
Right.
I want it to be on somebody else's or,
Right.
and when we leave it with them. That's, Mr. Leach, and what he said that, 2 years down the road, but it's gonna take some time to get that project done.
That's right.
But we need to be working on it. I mean, if it's 250 a year we put in it, in 5 years, you'll have your complex.
Right.
If that's a long run, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying to review, Shining Stars is a definite. We need some answers with that, Mr. Craig and Mr. Freese.
Well, I would say Mr. Freese and I had talked, and we plan to get together and make a phone call tomorrow and see if we can at least get something started to have a concrete answer for you next Tuesday night as far as ownership and which way we could go. Because definitely we need to definitely look at that, I think.
So if we could come to 2 or 3 conclusions, what I was alluding to a while ago, like Dr. Emmanuel is, if we know towns and these, that's, that's a high priority, needs to be taken care of. Shining Stars if we own it. And what I would like to do, just me as an individual homeowner, get back to the track concept that we talked about. I'd like to add Fairmont High School to that, and get back on that cycle. So we've done St. Paul's, we've done Lumberton, we do Fairmont, and the year after that, we'll do Red Springs or Purnell Swift. And they'll be done.
Right.
Move on to some other issues.
And Mr. Chairman, this time, Mike, I said, Mr. Chairman, instead of Randy, I was speaking to you. The electrical issue at Lumberton Senior High. Mr. Hammonds, you were saying it needed to be done?
That goes along with the auditorium, if they're gonna plan on using it for the plays, and so that's a decision made by whoever wants that auditorium.
I was speaking on that, if it was an emergency issue that needed to take place now.
What we're having to do now is every time they have a play, it takes us, we have to go in and set up a scaffold just to change out the lights, and that's, pretty costly.
Okay.
So,
I was just throwing that out by that, because of the electrical issue.
I mean, everything is, we try to keep everything operationally safe.
Okay, then, okay,
Standpoint of needing upgrading, yes.
okay.
Mr. Mayor, have you done 1 track at a time or 2 tracks at a time?
Well, the first time, I think we did both, we did Lumberton, Purnell, and Lumberton and St. Paul's at the same time, didn't we?
Right.
Just kind of, it was at the ends of the year.
Yeah, the money ends,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, money ends June 30th, yeah, we kind of overlap,
Two
yeah.
different monies.
So 2 different.
And we might could do 2 now, I mean, Erica back to tell us, I mean, at 170 or 100. My thing, getting back to Red Springs, I don't want to sound like, I am from Red Springs, but I St. Paul's, but just like I said, track, it don't matter to me, I want the whole county to have everything, every child. But, you could do 2, possibly do 2, but if you say, well, let's do Fairmont, you want to do Red Springs, I don't want to do Red Springs if we think that we're going to do the complex.
Complex, yeah, you're right.
Do the complex, the track would go on to where the complex is.
Right.
That is correct.
Or you do Purnell Sweat,
That is,
I don't know.
But we just need to let the folks know we got a plan, and that's what we plan on doing, and that's the focus,
Yeah,
the big project.
We did, we put that out there for the,
if we're gonna do the big project, we need to ask Erica to put back 750,000. I mean, I don't know what she can do or
bought the land and everything.
can't do, but if she can tell us, she can tell us better than we can tell her. If we wanna put
Yeah.
$500,000 back a year, 750 back a year, 3 or 4 years, 5, whatever it takes to do the complex, I think it's 3 million or something, Erica, 4 million, I don't remember the exact number, but
The Red Springs High Complex in totality was about $5.5 million. That included everything though. That was
Right.
moving the football field.
Right.
The track, everything would be in that complex.
That's right.
So then it kind of got where we were at a point, there needed to be more money put in and decision wasn't made to put more money to get to another point to do baseball and softball. And that's where it kind of stalled because there was more money needed to complete those 2 things than was decided upon to be a part of the budget.
Mike, do we know what it would be, since the football field is where it is, I'm gonna say, did we ever get a cost of a baseball, softball field? What that,
But now, I'd have
For the
to,
complex.
I don't remember in that much detail.
It was about 2 million for the complex.
baseball and softball?
Yeah.
Okay,
See, we started at 1 million that went over 2 years. And when that discussion was had, well, okay, well, how far will that get us? It was never decided, which one do you want to do? Do you want to do baseball or softball? Because that would only take care of one of them.
The first,
Need to do the complex. I mean, you can do without I'm like Craig, I live in Red Springs, but they got a football field. I mean, they might be mad at me right now, but they got a football field. But they need a new baseball field, and they need the softball field sitting side by side
Right.
in close proximity to the school. So if y'all willing to do that,
and I will even add, and it was middle school, but from working there and having kids having to get on the road, go long distances. Traveling, that baseball and softball, even though it is high school, it would be right down the road from the high school. And like you said, the football field is there, you've got a track around it. But,
the track's not at the football.
it's not at,
Track's over there.
that's what it's on the side. Is it regulation?
Well, back when we did the tracks, they're supposed to make them all
It's what I'm,
regular.
Supposed to be in that one,
Probably needs to,
many years ago.
if you're gonna.
6 years ago.
Okay. It would definitely would need resurface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if y'all fail to move the way you're going now is the right way, stick with your original plan, because what you were dealing with the extension of the building at St. Paul's, see, that's what happened there. They just settled out with this, and then you're left holding the bag now to make it bigger. So when you spend your money, spend it one time in the right direction, and you're going forward. I mean, that's just an observation that I've been watching, and the common sense approach. Because it's like, Ms. Furby was talking about, if you spend money over there in a field that you don't even own, you got a field here that you own, you even got the plans ready.
Right.
Something else to think about, with the COVID situation like it is, contractors may be a little more hungrier now, so be something that we might want to just see what kind of new numbers we could come up with.
If you could build two baseball fields, softball and baseball for 2 million, I mean, that would, like Erica said earlier about that 5 million, if you spend money out there, $1.5 million or whatever, because we could get the lights financed. We already know that. We can get the lights financed like we did before when we cut all the lights. That could cut part of your expenses down. So, I mean, I'd be willing to do that myself, and I think I'd be content. I think everybody up there would be content. But that's up to y'all. We just need to say, are we gonna do Townsend and Shining Star and the track, or you wanna do the Red Springs High School? And
What about your St. Paul's Elementary roof? That's critical as
we
shining.
need to do the roofs, Mr.
2 roofs at
I already
least.
said,
Which one? St. Paul's,
St. Paul's Elementary, sir.
and what's the other two? You said 2.
Well, no, that's the Shining Stars and St. Paul's
Oh,
Elementary.
okay.
Those are your 2 real.
Yeah, that's priority.
I didn't say we had to stop at 3. We can do,
Yeah, okay, okay.
as long as they're says we can.
yeah, so we got 500,000 already set aside for roofs, right?
Right.
So there are gonna be some roofs that's gonna be done. We just got to pick which ones that we're gonna do.
Right.
Right.
And then do all the roofs that we had on, not this sheet, 2 sheets, the first sheet. Do all the roofs that was 8,000 or 9,000, and we only have 500, and then to do the other ones, it'll be like, another, 400,000. That is correct, right?
Erica said.
884, 700 plus the 94,000 for Shining Stars. That would do all the roofs that were listed on those 2 sheets, except for Purnell and East Robinson, because there were no
Okay.
costs associated with that one that I saw. So that total is 978, 700.
I
There's
think,
500,000 already in the budget.
It's 500, and you got,
yes, sir.
and also you got renovations and major repairs, Erica, got 101.8 left in it.
We also have SACs that I've been discussing with Mr. Ernie and Ms. Karen. We're not gonna be in the SACs rotation for at least maybe 2 more years. There's, it's $500,000 in the SACs line item that can be moved somewhere else.
$500,000. So if you take the 1.8 and the $500,000, you could just about do Red Springs. I mean, I know, I'm talking all the money, but I'm just saying, and then recoup the money.
Yeah, I think we should repair all the roofs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Shining Star,
Paul,
Townsend, repair all the roofs.
St. Paul's Elementary.
The, track, yep, repair all the roof, that goes in. Also, look at the track at Fairmount and some stuff at Red Springs.
Right.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
Ms.
Ms. Erica, if we did the roofs and with towns and all that, we will have enough to do what Mr. Leach is saying, the rest of it? Funding?
I'll have to circle back through that one more time. You're saying do all the roofs at 978. Do Townsend which portion? Change, moving the old ones?
New,
or getting new ones?
the new one.
Get in new ones.
What's that again, Miss Brenda?
The new ones.
The new ones. I'm letting her get a figure for us.
Instead of moving up.
New ones for Townsend.
They went with the new ones, is what they
Yeah.
said.
do we need to make an agreement on the new ones?
She's checking. Erica's checking.
Just checking. The thing about the old ones, you don't know how long they've been there.
That's right.
10 years.
There's
been
too
there
much
5 years.
unknowns.
2 months.
Unknowns. By the time you go in there, you're gonna be paying for stuff twice.
Right.
I would just get-
Exactly.
Get go.
And if we use, Erica, if we use $1 million out of that 5 million, I mean, we have time to recoup some of that money, right? When you have,
Well, I can't predict when we'll need the money when we get the other. but
I understand.
We should,
Yeah,
but that's something that's outside of my control.
I understand.
I just hit her a while ago with a board.
Terry, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a question / comment. If we go with the, you know, I'm in agreement with, I think we should focus on instructional spaces. And I'm definitely in favor of, you know, I feel like Red Springs needs some attention as well. But if we go with new roofs, is it possible or is it typical to get some sort of, maintenance agreement, like built in? I like what Mr. Ernie said earlier, you know, about or maybe it was Vontae about the tracks, you know, building in some sort of maintenance agreements where if we're installing something brand new, you know, in 2021, that we're not having to come back 2 years later. You know, even if we have to pay X amount of dollars a month or whatever, these companies are, you know, checking to ensure that everything's maintained and we're not having the same conversation a couple of years down the road.
Yeah.
They normally
Be a warranty like.
give us.
Get a warranty on that.
They are.
Yeah.
Normally give us.
On the roof, so.
Yeah.
Well, warranties on roofs, warranties on the tracks too.
And the tracks, if you get the.
Don's got,
How long St. Paul's High is roofed on that second roof?
Which one now? What building?
Main building.
Main building? I think it was done around the same time East Robinson was. That's back during Saks. To be honest with you, that main building, the core building, is leaked from day one.
It's leaking through the walls.
John, Simmons got a question.
Let me throw one thing out. I know we had,
John's had his hand.
okay, I'm sorry.
Instead of doing the tracks, why not do the weight room at the high school? Because that's gonna be used more than that track. Because if one of those weights fall on kids in the
Classroom.
About the St. Paul's.
yeah, then we're gonna be in a whole new different ballgame. So we can do the track later after the weight room.
And Purnell's the same way because it's classrooms.
So I'm sorry,
Right, on in
I
it.
said Purnell too, because they're classrooms. They teaching there.
that's what I'm saying, that St. Paul's is
They teaching there too.
done before the tracks. Because they'll use more than the tracks are.
I agree with
If I
you.
get hurt in the weight room, then that's put us in a different ballgame.
They are limited.
Vontae.
I don't think St. Paul's track went in it this time. I think, we need to go back and look at, you know, we need to go back and look at, not the maintenance, we need to go back and look at, see what kind of warranty that we have on that track. Cause like it says 18 and we just at 2020, about to go in 2021. So there should be some kind of warranty on that track with the company that did it, have one out of business. I think that's how we solve the issue. And the stuff about the weight rooms, I didn't be in the weight rooms at St. Paul's. I didn't be in the weight room at Purnell Sweat. They're very little. They're very little. They won't build for 25, 30 men and women to be in there at one time.
That's right.
they won't build like that to start off with. And, when you build the stuff, when you have stuff like this, you have to build it for a multi-purpose use for all sports, not just one sports. And you have to be a big enough space where you can accommodate a lot of men and women in there.
But it's a good point. I think that's a good point. I mean, I can, as long as we got a plan, like I talked to her, as long as we got a 1-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, and y'all around here at this table stick to it. We talked about the track, we talked about the weight room, we talked about paving or whatever. But just to have a plan, and say, this is our plan. Y'all, some of y'all are gonna be here for 3 more years, 3.5 more years, so you just need to keep it. I don't really, me personally, don't have a problem with that, because that's been a hot item for many years as well.
Like I said, I don't want to see no kids get hurt, and,
Yeah,
like I said, it ain't big enough for both men and women to go in there.
right.
And that's a problem right there by itself.
And Mr. Chairman?
Right, Ms. Erica?
Okay, so I missed the other part there. I don't have a price yet for the track at Fairmont. I know you mentioned that. What was the other thing you mentioned, Mr. Leach? I got the roofs including Shining Stars, new mobile units at Townsend. That's $1,428,000. Well, 500 is already in the budget, so we take that out.
Yep. And
What's the other?
I said,
Shining Stars,
you guys shut us out.
got Shining, the only thing, well, we mentioned track, but now Mr. John mentioned the St. Paul's High School weight room.
And Purnell, because those are classrooms.
Yeah, but we can't do from the down.
I know, but what I'm saying is, right now, they can't even teach them at all because that building's locked down, period. There's nowhere for those students to go, if we go back to school.
Yeah.
I got a suggestion for both, the weight rooms and stuff at both St. Paul and Purnell Sweat. I think we should look at building bigger, standalone, big old metal buildings,
Fabricated building.
and put facade bricks
Not gonna approve it.
outside, make it
They won't approve it.
multi-purpose, multi-use, all sports, and put something nice and cost efficient, and it'll take care of our situation that we have. And we won't come back to this 3-4 years down the road.
With a state approved.
Put metal buildings up,
They
They would have,
insulate them.
insulate them,
They would've-
facade on the outside,
It's like-
make it look modern, make it look nice, and I think it'd be cost efficient for everything that sports will wanna do. Instead of trying to add on to the existing building, which is too small, to everything. It was not built, like I said, for athletes, it was not built for a lot of people to be in there.
and I wasn't speaking of building onto anything. I was speaking of what's there now currently.
Right.
That's if school open back up, they would need somewhere to go. And right now, they don't have anywhere because it's locked down. They can't go.
That may be something to check into.
Yeah.
Where they, you don't have,
Purnell,
What he said.
that's where,
yes, ma'am.
oh, yes, they can have somewhere to go.
Supervisor.
Locker room, the
Yeah.
kids, they can go.
Take that, Mr. Ernie, and get,
Go in.
I'm
They
taking.
can go in, that's all.
We'll run that.
Okay, well,
Make sure DPI will go with that, because that would, you could make your money go a lot longer in that direction. Solve a lot of problems.
And there's ones like I've been the one at, South Columbus High School at.
South Columbus.
Weight room, standalone weight room that I have been in before. I think just to throw it out there.
So, you're saying they've already developed one like that, right?
They got one, but I want ours to be better than theirs. They got
That
one.
sets a precedent.
I like that.
It's in the system, so that means DPI has approved it, so.
okay.
it should be fine. That was my
concern when they put.
The weight room,
let's see where Eric's at then.
So, new mobile units at Townsend.
yes.
The roofs, St. Paul's Elementary, Shining Stars, and all the others on that sheet except for the two on the back.
Okay, hold up right there, Miss Erica. I want Mr. Ernie to get, LL&J. Can he have us something by Tuesday night on the other two? If you're gonna do all the roofs, you need to do them now. That way, if you have a hurricane, it's gonna pay.
Which other routes are you referring to? Purnell and.
Purnell and East Robinson. I want them, I'm not trying to pick and pull, but they're on the list and we know there's issues over there and they need to be included in that. If you're gonna do all the roofs, you don't need to leave two out.
Some numbers run years ago at Purnell, so it's just a matter of updating those. And I think we did something at East Robinson too.
If you will you check that to include that and we'll
Not
pick
talking
that
about the
up?
whole campus though at East Robinson.
No, well, see, at East Robinson, I'm saying the oldest building,
That's the one,
the main building.
yes, sir.
I mean,
The original
I
pod.
mean, the shingles are burned off of it. It's just a matter of time whenever it's gonna,
Right, right.
And it's already leaking pretty bad because I get phone calls from teachers over there every time it rains.
You can't clean a house by doing every room in a time. I guess my concern is, with all the roofs you're gonna do, are you gonna start with Shining Stars?
Yes.
And you're gonna, next will be St. Paul's? That's my concern. Or you start with those?
That'll be his, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Ernie, that would be my concern.
yeah.
Actually, we can go ahead and start St. Paul's Elementary now, but that's on it.
Fixed.
All you will need to wait for Shining Stars is
The legality.
and you to push the bill
That's right.
3 years ago.
simultaneously.
Right.
Would already be covered in the existing budget of.
The tile field.
Yes.
Okay.
So without the other two schools in it, what are we looking at? Would there be any funding left over possibly?
So everything we just discussed, do I need to say it again? I say it again, okay. New mobile units at Townsend,
Correct.
all the roofs on this page, plus St. Paul's Elementary, minus Purnell and East Robinson, they'll be added when we get dollars. Minus the $500,000 that's already in the budget. And what else am I adding? Let's see it right now.
We wanted to see about that in Red Springs High School.
But,
We're gonna wait on that right now.
I mean, when you're looking at roofs, you need to have an assessment of all of them. The ones that Mr. Ernie has indicated, and I think it was about 12 or 13.
Well,
12, and they need to be addressed as well, because there's some of them are in really bad shape that's on that sheet. When I get a call about a roof, it's in bad shape.
we got a lot of bad shapes. We got a lot of bad shapes with paving. Maybe we can get a price on these 12, Mr. Ernie.
Yeah, we can.
But some.
It would be 14, right? Because the two on the back, right?
Take Hargrave off.
Yeah, take Hargrave off.
And take Hargrave off.
Can we agree then that roofs are priority? Especially with the winter months coming.
Yeah, but don't mean we have to do like Mr. Emanuel's, Dr. Emanuel, we don't have to do all of them right now. We can do, we can put $500,000 in the budget every year. We can do Shining Star, St. Paul's Elementary, and any other that Mr. Ernie finds redeemable, that this is the third one, this is the fourth one, and take care of that $500,000. And then if we need the other 200,000 or 300,000, we take it out of renovations or where we need to take it out of, whatever.
Basically, what Mr. Freese is telling us, if we go back to the system we had in the old days, we had them all prioritized, and every year we did so many.
That's right.
They were ranked in the
What
order.
Mike said.
Every once in a while, one would fool us and come up emergency, done for seen.
Yeah.
Right.
You got years and years of roof that's been like, he said, covered over, and things that you don't see, that you can't see without tearing up a roof. And the reason your roofs are priority, let me give you this one more time, $12,919, Shining Star, mold. $15,891 at Pembroke, I'm at St. Paul's Elementary. That's just a few days of about a week's worth of work, going up there cleaning.
Let me ask you this, Miss Erica, let's, brought up Red Springs, can we put Red Springs on the list for 2 fields? And if we have to take it out of that 5 million, because we ain't gonna build nothing within 12 months. If we get the FEMA money with the process and all that stuff, that'll give us a year or a year and a half, 2 years to recoup some of our money. So we know we're not gonna build anything. I mean, I know that. I think everybody that's been on the board knows that. So if we could put that on the list, get it off the list and get it behind us and move on.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to touch the 5 million. And the reason being, Dr. Williamson is a builder. And he could be able to get money. I want our money to be in there. He do, because like I said, he knows how to get money.
I ain't saying he can't get it, but I'm saying if he gets it next week, Brenda, ain't not gonna happen.
No, I mean as far as the 5 million, because he know how to get money from USDA, commissioners and everybody. I want us to make certain we got that matching fund in there. That's all I'm saying.
But
Tentatively, sure.
yeah, we tentatively make the plans, and then if we do come up with grants or whatever, then that's a bonus.
I'm good with it tentatively.
Okay.
It'll be 5 years
I want to ask,
before you build a school.
Mr. Lawson, I asked a question to Mr. Ernie. I know we previously approved fixing the windows at Littlefield. What's the stage of that job right now?
He's
In the
going-
process of getting that done, because we got the PO and everything run through on it. What happened when Mr. Bullard left, it kind of dropped, so we had to go back and get it back alive again.
So a contractor be doing that?
Yes, sir.
So that's something that we really could go ahead and expedite.
Yeah, it's in the process of being expedited.
Okay.
And to let you know, Miss Hannah, she had a outstanding PO for $6,000 worth of storefronts and accesses up at Pembroke IEA. And that same company is doing that. So what they're doing now, they're doing catch up with us. So that's in the process of getting.
So are we gonna do track at Fairmont, or we're gonna do the weight room at Purnell Sweat and do the track like the next year or something?
I think the weight room,
Weight room need to be,
I think the weight
and the
room,
weight room need to be more prior than the track.
I think the weight room.
Other than track, because that's the classroom.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out.
Ms. Erica, can we go back when we have money, that we could be used for a new bill and new bill only? Can we, since the weight room is like a classroom, can we look at that and see, can we use some of that money to build?
That's what I was saying earlier, the $15 million is new. We can certainly ask the question, but it would have to be new construction. So I don't know if extending an existing building would meet that criteria. We'd have to ask some questions to get the
Yeah.
clarity there.
We don't know, we don't want to extend the building, we want to build a new building.
Yeah.
Let's build a metal building.
Build a,
That's what I was saying earlier. Yes, it's a classroom, but it also serves as athletics. And I don't know if that would fall into, we'd have to get approval for that.
okay.
But we would certainly ask those questions.
When you look at, I think Paul's,
Who'd I asked, or is that something we'd ask that Eric, or the lady that got the money?
We could ask the lady there, and I will say, you know, the weight room at Sweat cannot be extended. Yeah, and I think you might have that problem there too, but I know the weight room at Sweat cannot be extended. So I could check with the lady that wrote the grant and see if she could find out for us.
And like I said,
You should probably.
And if she can, she could find the answer somewhere.
like I said, I wasn't talking about extending or touching that building except to renovate it from its current condition, so this can be taught in there.
looking at, Mr. Suggs and I looked at the one at St. Paul's High, and what we were previously talking, we wouldn't have needed but 3 walls and entrance doors. But you ain't talking but one more wall and call it a private structure. So that would be new build.
It's attached to an old build though.
It wouldn't be attached. It wouldn't be attached.
It depends on how close that wall is gonna be to the other.
But Mr. Ernie's gonna find all that out from DPI. Y'all,
Yeah, I told us.
we need to move on from that. Y'all,
And if it's got,
the other thing is, Mr. Craig, and I just want to say this, I've sit here tonight and I understand about the $5 million, Miss Erica. But we also put in for the 15 million and got approved. We don't need to be spending it on something that we didn't put in for. That money, I'm just telling you, to me, that money is prioritized, and if it ever comes, that's what we're planning on using it, and this board voted for it.
Prioritize.
So we don't need to change in the middle of the stream and say, oh, we're gonna spend this and that and the other, and then when we get ready to do it, we ain't got the 5 million to do our part.
Right, that's right.
I mean, I'm not interested in doing that, folks. Go ahead, Ms. Craig.
My comment was, when Miss Bridget come here and done this,
Right,
that 15 million was for the technology school.
right.
That's the way that was written. And I think definitely we would get in trouble if you tried to use that 15 million somewhere else. So we need to do keep that in mind. The other thing, and since I don't think we mentioned it, or if we did, I missed it. And this takes us away from everything we've talked about for 30 minutes, but the HVAC repairs is on this sheet. Did anything on that? I mean, any numbers on that? I mean, we know we got HVAC issues. But just since we were talking about everything, I didn't know if that needed to be brought up or not.
I just did a general quickie today. I just looked at your 5 high schools, and this is not saying that your buildings are not being cool now, but if we ever upgrade them, this is the look that we're looking at. For example, the the chill water lines, hot water lines, in the main portion of Lumberton Senior High. In some places, especially the F wing, which is a newer building, we've actually had to go in there and replace part of those pipes, which they come out and took out part of the ceilings and all. I mean, created mold problems and everything else. But the point is, you could spend $2 to $2.5 million just at Lumberton Senior alone. That's your mechanical upgrade. That's HVAC, heating, and so forth. That's the fact that you got two new chillers there, which is good. But that's still upgrading your infrastructure, which is your fan core units, the piping that goes to them, upgrading your control system. And at Purnell, I'm just throwing these numbers at you. Purnell, you could spend anywhere from 2 to 3.2 million. That's mechanical upgrades. Red Springs High, you could go anywhere from 800,000 to 900,000. Vermont High, you could spend anywhere from 700 to 800,000. And St. Paul's High, you could go anywhere up close to 900,000 to $1 million. And those are inflated, but that's including everything that you could possibly foresee and not foresee. And that's just something for the board to be thinking about with your older schools, your older equipment. I just let Miss Erica know a while ago at Prospect today, we were there replacing the 5th section of a boiler, 11 section boiler. And he sent me a photo, and the end of the burner had burnt off. That's the main burner which heats that whole entire portion of the campus. So now that put us scrambling, and I called the engineer to go ahead and get up with the contractor that's on there doing it for us, the same one that's doing this gas valve problem here. And in the process of getting us a burner to put in that. So that's just one little small boiler. And at one time we had over 120 boilers in the mechanical. We've been shaving them down by doing this. So there's ways that we can do it to maintain the schools as we are, but just be conscious of down the road when you're talking about equipment replacing, that can get very pricey. So,
But Mr. Hammond, what is the cheapest way? Because I've seen the units that's like this. Is it TPLT? What are they called?
a P-tax?
P-TAG.
Yeah.
Isn't that the cheapest route for us to take?
In your older schools, yes, ma'am. But see, like in Lumberton Senior, this wouldn't be feasible because you got chilled water available.
Right.
And technically speaking, the engineers will tell you that you can cool water down with a chiller, less cents on the dollars as you can with these. But these are perfect for this type of environment in smaller schools. And the teachers love these because they can maintain their environment. Those filters are hydrostatic filters, which means you just take them out and wash them, and it maintains the atmosphere. I mean, or the environment in the room. So P-TAC I would recommend, but engineers don't like these P-TACs. Of course, they don't make money off of them, that's why.
All the schools going to them there.
But as far as your and one of the reasons we were behind this summer is because we were not working. So don't equate the fact that you had a lot of AC problems, the fact that, yeah, we got a lot of old equipment, but that makes me tick. I mean, we're gonna do things and we're gonna, the old farm boy style, we can make it work with what you got. Every once in a while, like at Rosenwald, you had an air handler there as big as a train, freight car train. That baby had she went down, when she went down, you're talking about megabucks. So we went in and we P-TAC'd it. So things like that we can handle, but I just wanted you to see a good overview of your older schools. You've got a lot of failing equipment over time. And that's another reason we need to get our preventive maintenance crews, one on each side of the county, split the county half in two, nothing but PM. That's all that crew does all the time. And that will really de-escalate your problem with HVAC and heat. So those are some of the plans that we're looking at to try to help y'all out with your budget concerns.
So from what you mentioned, I counted up roughly $9 million.
Or easily. If you wanted to do a total upgrade right now on all of your equipment, chances are those numbers could come down, but you got to remember, as the farther we go into the future, I don't see the price of doing that. I see it going the opposite direction. So, good.
Well, Mr. Chairman, give us the top priorities.
Erica's got, what you got, Eric?
Okay.
We got stopped again at, the roofs. past the roofs and the, Townsend mobile units, we got stopped again between what was next priority. So we got new mobile units and then the roof situation, add those two later when we get prices.
I heard weight rooms next.
Mr. Chairman, can we go with that and then, Mr. Randy, have another, construction meeting to look at the other at another time?
I mean, we can, but we're gonna have something Tuesday night to bring.
That's what I'm saying, what we're gonna take Tuesday night to go ahead and do that, and then have another meeting for.
Can, for the next month. I don't have a problem with that.
Maybe we can, maybe Mr. Ernie or whoever can get the prices on those metal buildings. We decide what size building, what size building we want.
Thank you.
Get prices for.
What I want to do, I'll get the engineering firm to talk to Mr. Leach and let him go see the buildings that he's talked about. And then all we got to do is just a matter of, contacting DPI and seeing what the needs are, wherever the board selects to, to place them at. And then it's just a matter of crunching numbers in.
Remember, Mr. Ferris showed us those buildings, Mike?
Huh?
The athletic building, when we were talking about the complex that could be used? That's what Mr. Leach was talking about. We've seen it, the old boy seen it, the new boy haven't. Pictures of it, the complex, sporting complex.
The metal building. I want pictures of it to see it.
Yeah, you want pictures?
No, I've already seen it. Remember, he presented it to us at one time.
Yeah,
Mr. Ferris was talking about what a lot of schools are going to, universities.
yeah. Just need to get.
He's got that.
Whenever the engineers
He's
go out to scout, I think Randy, the construction, should be involved with that too.
Question. What about the weights and rack, the equipment for Purnell Sweat?
right.
That would be included.
It will be included.
Yeah.
Included in it. So there's no need for us to buy new equipment and stuff, put it in a small place. That, I don't think there's no,
Can't use.
Once we get the price for the.
yeah, once we get the price,
Get a price for it.
we'll see.
So that means that these students should not be in the gym, in the weight room.
But even if we said we're gonna buy new weight equipment right now, we're not coming in tomorrow. It's gonna take,
Right.
it take time and time for them to, because if you look on there, the design and stuff, it got the logo, it got everything, like, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take.
You gotta buy the house before you can put the
Yeah.
furniture in it.
So I just wanna.
But we're gonna have to,
If it take a year or something, I'm not saying it's gonna take a year, but I'm just saying, I wanna get a price, let's get a price on the buildings first, see if we can do everything at one time instead of say, no, we're gonna come back and do this. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman, remember, we can't do that because we got hit at Purnell Sweat before, because one school had this, another school didn't. Those students will have to have it, because if not, we're gonna get hit, this lawsuit again.
Dr. Emmanuel.
I know some of the PE equipment, the weight room equipment is rusted at Purnell, some of that
Yes.
stuff. It needs to be replaced. Mr.
Yeah.
Freese has seen it since I've seen it, I'm sure, maybe
I have.
Craig has. I don't know if we can wait to build a
Okay.
building, because some of that stuff is dangerous.
You could put up a metal building and stuff in a week or two, get a crew to come up here, put up a metal building in a couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
That, it don't take as long as, I just said, we just need to see, I want the kids to have new equipment. I want the kids at Purnell Sweat, I want the kids at St. Paul's. But at the same time, I want to look at the big picture, look at everything at one time. And we can't we say no to the metal buildings, we can put the stuff in the weight room.
But if we don't, we're gonna get sued like we did.
That's right.
It's not even in school right now, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Mr. Vontae, I understand definitely what you're saying, and I agree with that part. Other than I was at Sweat today, and they got a floor in there fixing to put down in that room. And the kids there have not been lifting weights because of that flooring and everything being messed up and those racks being in.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
They're in. So if you get these prices, I do think we need to come back and look at the possibility of getting, even though the building could go up fast, getting some weights in there to where they don't have those racks with those pins that have been welded. And it's in your packet, folks, if you want to look at those, where those pins have been welded 2 or 3 times.
Smart.
then that could be looked at.
It'd be a simple matter of transferring the rates that you're talking about buying there into the metal building, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Except for the racks, racks aren't, what he's saying, the racks aren't no good.
The racks aren't no good.
Whatever you needed now, couldn't it be transferred into the metal building?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm thinking, so you're not losing it.
It is, if we can't build it, Miss Erica got to check into it to see can we do it.
Right.
All right, but keep getting sidetracked.
All
Eric,
right, Miss Erica, we're waiting on you. We,
5 buildings,
I still
right?
didn't get
still ain't, that's what I'm saying. She's,
Townsend.
get what's next
For
after
Townsend.
the Townsend mobile units and the roofs. I don't have the what's next.
let's just what next, let's just wait, like somebody said. We'll get the price for the metal buildings, we'll call another meeting. And then we'll come back and discuss. So right now, we got all the roofs.
Right now, we're with the mobile units, the roofs we mentioned, including Shining Stars, $1,419,650 minus the $500,000 that's already in the budget. That's $919,650.
Right.
Okay.
Chairman, I say go with it, let us go with that.
Huh?
I said, let's go with that for time being.
Yeah,
but what I need, Mike,
go ahead.
with the money, that's your recommendation
Yes,
on the construction committee?
yes.
Okay,
Yes, she is.
okay. I mean, I'm just,
Chairman, I move that we move this forward to the full board.
I second.
okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Ain't none opposed. We need roof. All right,
Thank you.
You're gonna get, Mr., you're gonna get with JJ and them about the metal building. Need to find out what size we need.
Yeah, what I always tell the design professionals, get up with the people that work in the areas and the people that's over.
Of course, I know them boys.
So Mr. Leach and Mr. Lawson.
Yeah.
All those are involved in that.
Let me read.
I call some companies direct. Call some companies direct.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
To get the size.
Well, their LL&J, their expertise is in that type of metal building.
Right.
That's Jonathan's.
we have a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn?
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.